Hello, everyone. My name is Kerrie Bodendorf, and I'm here for another edition of the Melt Insider with Larry Feldstein. Welcome, Larry. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for letting me join you.
Yeah. So, Larry, tell us where you are and how you first learned about the Melt method.
Okay, for the summer, from middle of May till middle of September, I'm in Westover, Vermont, which is southern Vermont. It's near the Mount Snow ski area. I am the fitness consultant to the original golf school, which was the first golf school in the country, created in 1978.
Wow.
I do an on-course stretching program, and I do talk about Melt in my groups, but we don't have a formal Melt program as part of the program at this moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, Melt for golfers, that's something. Let's talk about that a little bit later. Because it can really help your golf game, as I'm sure you are aware. So how did you first hear about Melt?
Back in the early, probably around 2011 or 2012, I saw one of Sue's presentations on Dr. Oz, and I thought it was quite interesting. And at the time I was in a Tai Chi class with a massage therapist and Tai Chi instructor and so on named Deborah Tai. And I gave her the information and she thought it would fit very well. So she went down and took the training in New York.
I remember Deborah, yes.
And so what she did is she put the Melt balls activities into play as the warm-up for the Tai Chi classes. So it started there. And then because I got a couple of rollers from her and I had the book, I went in there and took a couple of the activities with the rollers for my neck, where I have multiple fusions. And also there's an activity on there on the roller, which is a whole body program. And I used that because I found that when I'm playing golf or practicing, basically I'm uneven when I lie on the floor, which is what I point out to students in the golf class. And I use that religiously after I play or after I practice to, balance everything.
Right.
That's where it started. And then in 2017, after we moved to Sarasota, Florida, which is where we lived during the winter, I took the Melt program at Orlando, up in Orlando. And I had also registered there for the level 1 in the spring. Unfortunately, I ruptured the anterior tibial flexor tendon of my right foot. So that wiped that out.
Oh boy.
Because I had a surgeon who was basically saying, you're not getting back on your foot so quickly.
Yeah.
So as I worked through that, I continue to do Melt on my own. I've worked with some individual clients down there. And this fall, when the combo class came up, I took that. I now work for an organization called Our Y, which used to be two YMCAs in Sarasota that went bankrupt. And it was a group of financial people and members who decided to try to save the programs.
Wonderful.
Which they've been able to do. And that's where I do my personal training. I will be doing some golf activities there, and we have some Melt classes lined up for the fall.
Wonderful.
And hopefully we will do some golf classes as well. They'll be basically at the Y, and they will also do online Zoom classes because they're doing that with their small group classes.
Wonderful. Excellent. So Larry, do you have any issues that Melt has helped you with? Any injuries or?
How long a time do you have?
I guess tell me your favorites.
My favorites are the two fusions that I've had, the two surgeries that I've had in my neck. Second one was in 2009, and that was a fusion with hardware. So there are restrictions and you have the side effects over time with level above starting to deteriorate. And then 2008, I had an L5S1 fusion. And we're 13 years out and the levels above are starting to deteriorate, which is to be expected. Unfortunately, now there are 4 or 5 different ways of approaching the surgery, without the fusion, I'm too far
Right.
gone down. So I'm dealing with that, and melt certainly makes a big difference in helping me to work through those and adapt. For example, some of the neck activities that we would do in melt on a full roller, I can't do in a fusion, and I've adapted to the
Right.
half roller, which is much more comfortable, but I get the same effects. And then we have other odds and ends going on, the repair of a tendon in my foot and some other shoulder injuries, but there's enough things in melt that I can work on the various parts of this 78-year-old body to.
Yeah, and that's really, there's so many awesome things about melt, but one of the best things is it really is adaptable to every body. Everyone can melt. It doesn't matter how old you are or how sedentary you are, or how much pain you're in. There is always at least a few sequences that you can do with these soft tools. We use these soft balls and these wonderful soft rollers. And you don't have to hurt yourself to get out of pain. That's also something I love about it.
Right, and one of the things that I'm doing now, kind of this little, we have a member at the Y who is a retired policeman from Burlington, Vermont. And 4 years ago, he lives in Sarasota, he suffered a stroke.
Mm-hmm.
So I have seen some of the stroke work that Sue has done, and I gave him a softball and some of the exercises. And I said, just all I want you to do is just work on doing some of the basic things with squeezing the ball with your hands and your feet,
Yeah.
sitting down, and we're seeing where that goes, and we'll see where it goes coming in the fall. And I wanted to add some additional exercises to him before it left, but he hadn't been at the Y for a couple of weeks. He's also just had a knee replacement, so he's kind of a test case for me on
Right.
another way to approach melt with a serious stroke.
Right. Yeah. It's like get those connective tissue fluids moving. It can really help you feel better. It's not a cure. Sue always said it's not a cure, but it certainly is a way to tap into your body's healing mechanisms. So have you used, you said you use melt a little bit in the golf school. Have you had any testimonials from golfers?
Most of what I've done in melt is just kind of very quick mention when I have time, and shown the softball and some of the things that can be done, but there's not, if my boss or myself get any feedback from people later, it's very possible that was part of the complimentary part of what
Right.
they've had to say.
Yeah.
But because it's usually just something I mention, and my card that they get and the program, the handout that they get lists a whole bunch of melt things to go look for.
Yeah.
It may be intriguing for them to look at the program further, which is what I suggest.
Right. And the great message for golfers or tennis players or anybody that does anything active in their life, if they want to keep doing it long into their 80s and 90s, get yourself a little prehab, as we call, right? We can prehab our body before we get injured by warming up our body with a little bit of melt. So Larry, I know you're teaching some classes in the fall in Sarasota. And what are you offering in Vermont, if anything, over the summer?
I will be offering basically one-to-one training, and if I find enough people, I will offer classes at the place that I rent. And I'd like to mention one other thing about an interesting melt client that I had. Unfortunately, COVID shut down the sessions, and this was in Sarasota, and she is a world-class, her and her partner are world-class singles and doubles scullers.
Mm.
Her partner they're both English, and her partner is a physical therapist. And she's had trouble with one of her hands and been to doctors and PT, and there was no benefit. And we got to talking one day, and she started coming regularly once a week and taking the program. And we did hands and feet work with melt, and she found it extremely successful. Unfortunately, when March hit, that was the end of it because her husband's got some problems, and she was just being safe. But
Right.
I've seen her, and she's very happy with the direction it's gone. And I told her after when I was going through the new program, I said, there's some new things out there, because Sue's always making an adjustment, and maybe back in the fall we'll touch base again and work on that.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure you got her going, and hopefully she kept up with her hand treatments, because being regular with your treatments is definitely a way to
She has. That's
progress. Excellent. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Larry. And what we'll do is we'll put Larry's contact information in the description of this video. And if you would like to tell me your melt story, we can also link my contact information in the description of this video as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. It was fun.
Bye, everybody. Happy melting.